So you have an amazing story that you want to tell, and you want to grip the reader from page 1 and keep them engaged with your book until the final paragraph on the final page. The problem is that most authors have a great beginning and a great ending, but they don't have a great middle. They suffer from sagging middle disease. Well, today we're going to talk about architectural suspense that will help put all the sagging middle disease to bed. That's coming up on this episode of The Creator's Journey. Hey folks, I'm Gary. This is The Creator's Journey. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you've been following me for a while now, welcome back. Last week, I had a wonderful experience in participating with Wordstock 2. That was a sort of a writer's virtual summit that was put together by Robert Jones, the story detective. Robert asked me to talk about suspense, and I had a blast making the video. And I want to thank you for the kind words and comments that you guys left for the video and for me. I really do appreciate it. Now, one of the commenters wanted to know more about architectural suspense, what it is, how it can be used, and asked if either myself or Robert, or both of us, could do a video on it. So Robert and I decided to do a collaboration this week and talk about architectural suspense. And this is specifically at the request of Dal. So Dal, hopefully this answers your questions. If you got any more, just reach out to me, either here on the channel or hit Robert up. One of us can get back to you. Now, architectural suspense, honestly, I really didn't know what it was because the examples I was giving in my video were all things that just came naturally to me, came intuitively to me, that I didn't learn in a writing class or from a mentor or anything like that. And the first time I heard that term architectural suspense was from Robert. I later found out that it was coined by Saul Stein, who is a wonderful writer, has some great books out there. One of them is called Saul Stein on Writing, that if you're interested in finding books on the craft, go and pick this one up. I'll put the link down in the comments. So all you got to do is click, you'll be taken to Amazon, you can pick up the book straight away. So what exactly is architectural suspense? Well, first we have to break it down into its individual components. So let me read from dictionary.com for a moment on the definition of architecture. One of the definitions of architecture, according to dictionary.com, is the action or process of building or construction. And suspense is the building of a feeling of anticipation. So architectural suspense, therefore, would be how we build that feeling of anticipation. Does that make sense? So because of this, the first thing we need to talk about is plotting. Because think of architectural suspense as a building. You have the foundation, and then you build floor upon floor upon floor upon floor until you go and you get to the penthouse. Everybody wants to be at the penthouse. It's got the best views. That's where you want to take your reader. You want to take them from the lobby all the way up to the penthouse. And in order to do this, you need to be a plotter. In my belief, you cannot be a pantser and get away with using architectural suspense. Because you have to know where the beats are in your story so you know how to build the suspense to where it's at a fever pitch to where the reader cannot put your book down. And just like you wouldn't build a building without a blueprint, you don't want to use this unless you have a good idea of what your plot is. One of the better ways of creating that architectural suspense, building that floor by floor, is to end every chapter with a cliffhanger, or at least a point of curiosity, a point of interest. So, for example, let's say you were writing a science fiction book or a fantasy book where the protagonist at the end of the chapter is left mortally wounded on the field of battle, run through with a sword or trampled over by a horse, or maybe zapped with a spell by an evil wizard. When you begin the second chapter, you begin in some place totally different. Instead of the battlefield, you could be in a serene and peaceful wooden cabin where you're introducing another character. Now, the reader is going to want to know what happened to the hero, what happened to the protagonist. And here you are talking about this peaceful log cabin in the woods where another one of your characters exists. Another one of your characters lives. And you follow that part of the narrative until you lead that character to a cliffhanger, a moment of suspense, or a question that hangs. Maybe the owner of the log cabin is a kindly old man that doesn't want to have anything to do with it, and he gets a message at the end that tells him someone died, and we see the blood drain from his face. And then you begin the third chapter by going back and answering the questions in the first one. What happened to the hero? Is he dead on the battlefield? If not, how did he survive? This is the basis of architectural suspense. You're building it. You're weaving it, almost like you're braiding hair. Does this make sense? I'm hoping it does, because when you get this down, when you understand this, you will never have sagging middle disease again. This is why it is so important to be a plotter rather than a pantser or even a plantser if you want to get this right and if you really want to grab your readers and not let them go. It is a writer's job to make a promise to that reader and then to be wholly irresponsible and never tell the reader and stretch it out as long as we can. If you want to look at it a different way, you're teasing the reader, right? So I kind of like to think of architectural suspense as being a master lover, right? A master lover knows that the fun is in the foreplay, that the fun is in the teasing before the actual event, right? And the more you can tease, the more you could arouse your lover, the more they are going to enjoy it, and the more they're going to stick around, right? If they're having fun, if they're entertained, they ain't going anywhere. That's architectural suspense. You're teasing the reader. You're saying, this character is in danger. They flip the page to see what's going on, and all of a sudden you're talking about a log cabin in the woods. And rather than to get upset, they're going to stick around because they still need to have that question answered. They still need to have that promise fulfilled. And if you can master this, if you can do it well, then you will have a tight and taut story. One that has a great beginning, a fantastic middle that is charged, and an ending that pays everything off. Does that make sense? Can you see the power in using architectural suspense and in plotting your books out so you know where to drop the elements of suspense and the curiosities and the other hooks or mini hooks along the way that'll keep the reader engaged. This is all that architectural suspense is about. It's about the building of the story. Another part of architectural suspense consists of editing and pacing. Now, this is all about your second draft and your third draft and every edit you make until your final draft, more than it is about your first draft, right? The first draft is just about getting it out, getting it on paper in the best way that you can, vomiting out the ideas and getting them on paper. That's what the first draft is all about, right? That's why I recommend to never edit until you're done with the first draft. Don't edit on paper and don't edit up here. Just let it all out. But when you're done, then you have to be ruthless about editing and pacing. You don't want too much exposition in there. You don't want it to be too wordy because it has to snap, it has to crackle. If a description of a forest goes on for 4 pages, you're going to lose the reader's interest. So any suspenseful elements you are building with architectural suspense are going to fall flat. They're going to miss their mark. So you want to be ruthless and cut any scenes that go on too long or that just don't work or are just plain bad, right? We've all written bad scenes, and it will slow down the action. It'll slow down the pacing. And pacing is an important element. So when it comes time to edit that book, don't fall in love with your own writing. Make agnostic decisions based upon what's best for the story and building the suspense so you don't have that sagging middle. Well, folks, that's all I got on architectural suspense. Dal, I hope that answered some of your questions. I'd love to hear from all of you out there on what you think of this video and what you think of architectural suspense and how you use suspense in your writings. So do me a favor, just drop your comments right in the comments and let me know what's going on. If you like this video, please subscribe. There probably will be my head floating around somewhere on top, or you got the subscribe button down at the bottom. And make sure you ring the bell so you'll be notified every time that I put up a new video. I try to do this every week or two, and that's all I got. So until next week, keep writing.